At this moment, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Rodgers. And David has a background in integrated water management. He is based in Australia, so up quite late tonight. And he is the grants manager for Regreening Africa for World Vision International. David, please, you have the floor.
Thanks, Constance, and thanks for the opportunity to share on this from our perspective. I think it's really an important workshop for us as World Vision, working across 8 of the countries, well, all 8 countries within Regreening Africa, and with our philosophy and approach to aid and development as a faith-based organisation. So World Vision sees international development as an expression of faith. The core values within World Vision, there's six main ones, and 2 of them are we are stewards and we are committed to the poor and vulnerable. So it's this expression of stewardship of the land and the people that is within so many of the faiths that we work across that is important to this work. We've also found that we're much more effective in our development work when we're speaking to people in a language that they understand and is their own language. So coming into communities and working through faith actors and within that language of someone's own religion, their own heart, is something that actually brings about a much more important impact. And I've found working across our interfaith teams, like one of my best moments in working in international development has been working through our team in Beirut, where we're having weekly devotions, bringing in leaders from the Shia, the Sunni and the Maronite community to talk about our work in restoration and how it impacts their religion and their expression of faith. So it's that camaraderie and finding common aspects of our faiths within this restoration calling that is so important to our work. So as we said in the introduction to this, faith groups are the largest part of civil society, and the influence that they have in the communities that we work with is huge. So when we come into communities, we tend to work through an area leaders and work with them to build up the relationships. So this puts us in a really good position to engage with that influence and that civil society work going on in these areas. So the predominant way we've done this is through the Channels of Hope program, which is making development so we've done one of our major language from different areas that we're working in and putting it into biblical messaging, Quranic messaging, messaging from leaders, and putting that into our work in child protection, gender-based violence, so a lot of work around equality of people in the spiritual language for that, our work in combating Ebola and working on maternal, newborn and child health, so a lot of hygiene messaging from these spiritual texts, as well as combating HIV and AIDS stigma. And now we're starting to use this model a lot more in reforestation and just finding how rich this is a vein for the work that we do. So seeing the importance of environment across all faiths and these works of protecting environment, planting trees, stewardship of land and stewardship of resources being so important to the work. So all of these programs work through conducting catalyzing workshops with faith leaders and spouses, which equip them with the knowledge to use these messages and preach this to their communities. These leaders then take the knowledge back to their communities and work on community hope and action plans. As these faith communities implement these plans, we come in with opportunities to strengthen and try and find other ways to engage with infrastructure and other work that can help with that. A lot of this has involved cross-sharing between imams and pastors. We've got pastors to go and to swap and teach at mosques, imams to come and teach at churches. So a lot of this is the shared principles across religions and the engagement that we can find through that. In conducting one of our workshops on FMNR and faith building, we conducted a workshop with 170 church leaders in Malawi, and we even had a bishop coming up and chastising the leaders in the group about their focus on heaven and their focus on the spiritual aspects of the world, when there's so much of the spiritual aspect within the land and the communities that we work with, which is something that resonates really heavily with me, as it's such a massive part of our Indigenous spiritual cultures here in Australia as well. So in doing this, we're working with groups like the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative to try and find more ways to bring this into FMNR, bring this into our reforestation and regreening practices. And I really look forward to Hamed's presentation to show more in depth what World Vision is doing specifically in faith in this project. Thanks.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for sharing both the World Vision perspective and approach, and also your personal perspectives within this. And I think it's really interesting that you're also resonating an earlier comment about how we have to not just have these messages inside of a church and a mosque, but actually deep into community and the roles that they can play. And so I also appreciated the interfaith dimension of what you've just shared.